Hello, this is Todd Luck, and there is a lot of exciting news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. But I think that the announcements about Tarzan and other Edgar Rice Burroughs properties are as exciting as anything else we're hearing coming out of that convention. And so on Facebook, Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated released 4 announcements about a movie and some novels. However, we're going to start with an announcement made about Tarzan by a company other than Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. And so I want you guys to follow along on my emotional roller coaster on this one. So as I was looking for those announcements that Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated made, I did a Google search, but I wasn't finding anything about them. However, I was finding 2 articles on a Tarzan comic book series. And so I'm like, huh? And I looked those over. I was like checking the date to make sure that was correct. Was that really for this year? I was like reading them over and over again to make sure I was processing it correctly. But it was indeed about a Tarzan comic book series that is going to be written by Dan Jurgens, best known for his work on Death of Superman, but he's also done fantastic work on Tomb Raider and Justice League and Thor and so many other characters. He created Booster Gold. Very beloved writer. I grew up on his stuff. He is going to be writing a Tarzan comic book series that will feature art by Benito Gallego, who is currently doing the artwork for the online comic strips. His art is very reminiscent of John Buscema. Great stuff. It's going to be coming from Dynamite Comics, so it's going to end up in your comic book shops. And it's going to be coming out in November, and so it's a little too early to pre-order it right now. Right now, comic book pre-orders go through what's coming out in October. We'll be able to pre-order that first issue very soon. And so I am super hyped reading all of this. I can't believe it. I'm about to do the victory cry of the great ape. And then in one of the articles, I read that the series is going to be called Lord of the Jungle because of licensing issues. And I am crushed, right? Because the last time that happened, Dynamite didn't have the rights to do Tarzan, and the series was unofficial, and it wasn't that good. And so I'm very sad about that part of it. And so I post my mixed emotions on Facebook. And then Christopher Paul Carey, who is the creative director at Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated and is also a wonderful human being, chimed in and told me it is an official Tarzan comic book series. Just for some reason, Dynamite doesn't have the rights to put Tarzan on the cover and has to call it Lord of the Jungle. That sounds complicated, and I hope at some point that situation is worked out, because this series should certainly be called Tarzan. But I am just very happy that for the first time in 22 years, you're going to be able to walk into a comic book store and there is going to be an ongoing Tarzan series on the shelf. Best Comic-Con ever. And so as amazing as that is, Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated's announcements were not anticlimactic and are exciting in themselves. And so the first one is that they have signed an option agreement for a Tarzan live-action motion picture with Columbia Pictures. And so Tarzan is swinging from Warner Brothers to Columbia Pictures. Keep in mind, though, that an option is not necessarily the same thing as a movie being made. That just means that there's an agreement that the studio is interested in making a movie. And of course, it is the first step in that process. But oftentimes, it can be years and years of false starts, and sometimes movies never happen. But unlike something like, for instance, Masters of the Universe, which has been trying for 20-some years to get another live-action picture, Tarzan has a history of being on the big screen. And there is an expectation that if you want to option Tarzan, you're going to make a movie. Columbia Pictures is a subsidiary of Sony, and they've co-produced movies like the Spider-Man movies, the Venom movies, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and that Bullet Train movie you keep seeing advertised all over the place. So they've done some really major movies, and sometimes they have misses too. They also co-produce Morbius. But from what I could tell, they produce movies for the big screen. I didn't see anything that went to streaming, so presumably this will be Tarzan's return once again to the big screen. Their next announcement was showing the finished cover for Victory Harbin, Fires of Halos, which is coming out later this year. It's a novel written by Christopher Paul Carey that will wrap up the Swords of Eternity arc that's been crossing over between the Tarzan, Carson of Venus, and John Carter novels. And it looks great. I love Hucklebuck on her shoulder there. It's a very nice looking cover. Their next announcement was a brand new novel coming next year called A Princess of Mars, Shadow of the Assassins. And this will be written by Anne Tonsor-Zedes, who did the novelette in the back of the new John Carter novel that I recently did a review of. And she did a great job on that. I expect this to be a fantastic novel. I am a little curious why it's called A Princess of Mars and not Dija Torres. Obviously, people who have read the novels are familiar with A Princess of Mars, but for the general public, they would be much more familiar with the name Dija Torres. But regardless, it's going to be a fantastic novel, and I certainly look forward to it. And so the final announcement was for a new super arc. It's going to be 3 novels. They're all going to be written by Wynne Scott Eckard, who wrote Tarzan Battle for Pellucidar. I've done a review of that if you want to check that out. And it's going to be called the Dead Moon Super Arc. They're all going to be set in Pellucidar at the Earth's core. And of course, the Dead Moon is most likely referring to the moon of Pellucidar, which is kind of weird, but it does have a moon. And so the most exciting thing, though, is not just the setting of these novels, but that Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated remembered that Tarzan has a supporting cast. And so the first novel coming out next year is going to be Korak at the Earth's Core, and of course it's going to star Korak. Miriam, his wife, will be a major player in the novel, which is fantastic. The second novel is going to be called Pellucidar, Land of Awful Shadow, and it's going to be starring Suzanne, Tarzan's granddaughter, and there's going to be a major new Waziri character, and I cannot wait. That sounds amazing. The final title is going to be Tarzan Unleashed. That's a working title right now, but regardless, it is going to star Tarzan and Jane, which sounds amazing. I can't wait to read these novels. So that's really cool. They have one writer doing a trilogy like that. It's very reminiscent to me of what Star Wars did with their expanded universe novels back in the 90s. And I know people who were into those that really loved that stuff. And they just loved, being able to get a full 3 novels out of one writer that they really enjoyed. So I'm glad Edgar Rice Burroughs Inc. is doing that for modern fans with these properties. And between the old novels that they're reprinting and the new ones that are coming up, there are a lot of Pellucidar novels that they're putting out, but it kind of makes sense because once you get past Tarzan and Mars, Pellucidar would be the series that has the most books in it that Burroughs did. And, Pellucidar has had a movie, At the Earth's Core, in the 1970s, and it's also appeared in different versions of Pellucidar have appeared in the Tarzan of the Apes cartoon in the 70s, the Tarzan the Epic Adventures live action series in the 90s, and then the Legend of Tarzan animated series from Disney in the 2000s. So, At the Earth's Core is a property that has had a lot of exposure over the years, so I guess it makes sense that they would be doing a lot of stories in that space, and I'm sure probably there'll be a super arc with John Carter or somebody else coming at some point too. And Mike Wolver threw out his own announcement that the novelette that he is writing in the back of Victory Harbin, Fires of Halos is going to be called Beyond the Furthest Star, Rescue on Xandar. I've already kind of made a video about that because it was mentioned on their canon webpage. However, this is the first time it's been officially announced. And he also said that the novelette would star Tyla and give her backstory leading up to, when she met Victory Harbin. And by the way, that artwork of Tyla is taken from Mike Wolfer's variant cover of the first issue of Beyond the Furthest Star, Warriors of Xandar. So yeah, very, very exciting announcements. And of course, we already have stuff that we knew was coming, like the Victory Harbin graphic novel, the Tarzan graphic novel from Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. So there's just a lot of really great stuff going on with these properties. And I hope you guys are excited as I am. And I will definitely keep you guys updated when I hear more. All right, like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.